Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Very excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here is a quote for this episode. A guardian stays committed to the customer while balancing what is most important: God, family, life, and work. Nimble, the N in Guardian. Our guest today, founder of Guardian Roofing and Siding, is once again back to educate and enlighten us on the Guardian values. Robert Frehafer is a friend of the Culture Matters podcast and is quite nimble himself. Thanks for coming on the show. And I'm excited to learn about this value and even some of the talks we were having before this episode. You had mentioned that they were fitting to this value. A guardian stays committed to the customer while balancing what is most important: God, family, life, and work. Do tell.
Good morning, Jay. Thank you. Thank you once again for this pre-dawn meeting. And hello to everyone that's listening. So in regards to do telling, we were just talking about, and even goes back to yesterday in the morning when I said, like, oh man, I don't know what's going on, getting up so early and performing. I don't know about performing, but being ready to go, having a cup of coffee and being ready by 6 o'clock. It's tiring and it adds a bit to the day. And it might actually, that's what I was saying to you, like the week off last week, really, I was feeling a lot better having that week off rather than having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or my body waking me up at 4:30, like, oh, is my alarm going off soon? Because it's important for me to be here. If you're getting up to have the show at 6, that's something that's important for me to be there. And it does impact, last night we had a very busy evening, and tomorrow I have a quarterly sales meeting with all the guardians. Then at nighttime I have a youth ministry, the last youth Young Bucks event at church. We're going out to Top Golf from 7 till 9. So that makes for a long day to get up and be ready to go at 6 in the morning, and then through the day, and then coming home and then up again the next morning. So your invitation to not have a podcast tomorrow morning is welcome, right? And then even Thursday night is a Bible study night. Like, so they make for long days, and then they tire me out, and then it could impact. That's kind of what we were talking about a little bit before this was like, it could make my day to day a little bit more challenging when there's conflicts that are rising up, when there's things that I really need to be, I would use the word, grounded or focused or something along those lines, not emotionally drained to do my work the best that I can possibly do it. That would be balancing, right? So the guardian stays committed to the customer. So in that capacity, we're talking about the staff of Guardian, whether it's sales, office, install. We're committed to the customer. We're committed to doing a great job. But that's while balancing. So it does rise up. There's like an oxymoron there a little bit, right? Like, because it rises up our commitment to the customer while balancing what truly, in the hierarchy of the layout of the language in the value, is God, then family, then life, and then work as like a lesser important, but yet the balancing our commitment to the customer is raised up. So it really puts the angst, just like we were talking about before this, like, oh, I want to make a change to my schedule so I could balance my commitment to the customer and what's important in my life. You mentioned it's important to not want to hate everybody around you, which I think is reasonable. So does that make sense in that?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Does that make sense in that regard? Like, from how that value is generally applied.
where do you think it comes in to get objectively clear on the order of one's order of importance
Same
of
time.
the because we so the guard is key stays committed to the customer while while balancing, and then those four things, those are broad terms: God, family, life, work. It seems like a call to become clear in what one is doing quite literally day to day,
Mm.
to be able to even, because how can we be clear on if we're staying committed to the customer while balancing God, family, life, and work, if we don't have a grip over what we're actually doing in our day, what we're not doing. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
So I think it's a great question, and it's a great observation, and it takes a lot of work. You and I have done a lot of work for me to even like start to wrap my head around that, and I can go through the litany of steps that we're gone through, but the application at this point, through this medium of the value that's written and it's hanging on the wall in the conference room, and we talk about it, we live it out. One of the biggest things that we do, I have this goals preparation. It's like a 5-page document of questions to ask the sales reps, the guardians in the company. And it's just something that will trigger them about all of these topics. What is their priority? What are the things that are important to them? And each person is going to be different. They're in different stages of life. They're in different walks of faith. So all these things are going to be different, but the charge that I have is to draw it out of them so they can do exactly what you're saying, to write it down of what is important. That's like the first step. And really the first step is thinking about it, literally thinking about like what is important, taking a you use the term TDM, a mini TDM for themselves, right? Like to slow down time, get out of their normal day to day, and think about their lives 4 times a year, right? So we do a quarterly goals meeting and think about their things that they say, like, yeah, this is important, this is important. It has been a practice, even for me over the last few years, even to get to a point like to have some level of organization of a how to do it, because that's just the start. Thinking about it, writing it down, all the different things that are important, and then creating a schedule that supports my or their ideals that they create. They write it down, they do it, and whether that means, we talk a lot about the financial end of that, right? Because if I just don't run a meeting and say, okay, well, what's your sales goals? How much are you going to sell this quarter? How much are you going to sell this year? What activities do you have to do from a sales end to get that done? And truly, I'm teaching through my own paradigm. Basically, that's not what works for me. That is not a motivator for me. At the end of the day, if it's the second Tuesday of the third month of the quarter, and I don't even use that language, and I'm like, oh, my numbers aren't hitting, I'm emotional. I'm not going to care. I'm going to care about what's right in front of me. Oh, is my wife happy? Am I going to my Bible study? Am I just spun out and not able to focus on anything? Yeah, I've sold, because that's generally the direction that I've gone in sales, is that I would sell and sell and sell, and that would rise up as the priority. And all the other areas of my life were burning down. And then I would end up hating everyone around me and myself, but I would have a lot of sales. And from the outside, people were like, oh, you're doing a great job. And I wouldn't get to experience that fully, because there wasn't any balance. So through the practice of writing these things down, like laying out what's important, laying out how much time that I want to dedicate to each thing, there's this thing that goes on. One, I can be self-accountable to do the things that are important. Go to church, go to Bible study, be present for these things, and not allow work to make me reschedule them, which that in and of itself is awesome, because when I reschedule things and there's this guilt that would come in and have to tell people break my promises to myself and to them. So there's this psychological thing that goes on when we do that. That's very, very negative. As well as I've started to have to really lay out what is important to me, not because prior to the exercise of writing these things down in my mind, it was like, yeah, I want to be a great father, a great husband, a great leader in the company. I want to sell well. I want to, represent for my clients. I want to do these things in the church. I want to go on mission trips, like all these different things. I had unreasonable expectations for myself. They're all awesome things that I want to live up to, but there are only a certain amount of hours in the day, and then I need rest, I need downtime, and I also, so that's number one, is that I realized like my own expectations are way out of whack. Like and then I will not live up to what's going on, and that is like, to go back to your question, that is unclear in my own mind. It was unclear in my own mind, so how could I possibly live it out? And it was these things, it was whatever was rising up in the moment that was like a good valiant thing that I would be doing, and I can't live up to it because I don't have the time, or I would have to be saying like, oh, I'd really like to do these things. And it, in the past, it revealed itself, because when people say, oh, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? I don't know. Let me get back to you. Yeah, I'd like to do that. Or I would overcommit to things or leave things hanging and then not circle back to somebody and say, no, I'm not going to do that. So some of the major changes are, I say no to so many things now. I don't say yes to, even if things that I'm going to consider, I go back and I look at schedule, calendar, things. But a big thing that goes on is I communicate with my wife first before saying yes to so many things that are outside of like the daily workday. So to get back to this, number one, writing it down, then having to put it on paper for an actual schedule. So from a leadership role that I have in the company, and the sales reps that are making their schedules, when we have these quarterly meetings, it's one thing if we say, yeah, I want to sell $1.5 million this year. Great. Well, why? Because it's down the line in the middle of the quarter when, whatever's going on, that's a distraction, and you're not living up to what you committed to want to do from a work standpoint. And this goes both ways. From a work standpoint, well, then we could tie that back to, you wanted to put money away for your kids' college. You wanted to be able to take them on 2 vacations a year. I'm not like beating somebody over the head with it, but we've already unearthed it. They know it. I know it. The group knows it. So if they're not hitting those goals, and they are, if one individual rep is going through whatever it is, because we're emotional people, we can go through, it could just be a tough season. It could be things are a challenge, whatever's going on, that they're not doing the daily actions of work that would create this balance that they laid out that they wanted. Well, then there's an opportunity for accountability and for them to balance these things out. On the flip side, the same thing that I go through, where you work like crazy, a big storm hits, and then you're working like so much, you're sacrificing the balance between work and God, family, life, and then work, and work is rising up, and it's all that's going on. So many times I've had to deal with then myself personally having like, oh, I got to unplug, I got to rechange, I had to do this major shift because I had so much guilt from not living up to the things that I want to do. Same thing for the sales reps. Even the best ones, or I would say the ones that sell the most volume, they get the most out of whack, they get the most out of balance, and then they need a month off to like they have to refigure out their life. Same thing that I've gone through, right? Like we talked about in the beginning, I have to figure this out. I want to see. Now we talked about it on a very small scale, like shifting schedule of a podcast, right? Like, but ultimately I've seen it where myself or others have like wanted to, better than anybody, but I go through swings where at certain points I was like, I don't even want to do this anymore. I'm just going to go be a missionary. Right. That was kind of one of our biggest challenges, is that I had these two competing worldviews that either I'm a capitalist or I'm a mission, I'm a minister, right? Like, and coming to find out that where I'm at this point is like there's a mix there. Like I'm in the world and I own a company and I run business and I do business, but I can do it in a honorable, virtuous, and it actually is missional for me. The business, the people that I meet, how we navigate, the things I get to talk about. So there's this like this balance that's going on. This is where God has me. So all that being said, yeah, these things, the way to navigate out, how does somebody then objectify God, family, family, life, and then work is to do the work of writing it down, and then you redo it. Because even myself, everybody that has not done activities like this, it gets reevaluated, and we do it every quarter. We reevaluate it, and then we meet throughout the quarter as well. But the main meeting every quarter, it was so clear that all right, we set certain goals and set certain things of ideally what it would be like, and then there's outside circumstances that change. Things happen. What we thought ideally was, what it was going to be was not what it was going to be. That's been a lot of learning lesson, is that balance is not like 40 hours at work and 40 hours at church and 40 hours with family, because that's just not the balance that it is. It could be 3 hours with my wife on a date night, and then 4 hours a week with dinners together, and then one Saturday a week, and then one weekend a month. And that could be sufficient, like a lot of meeting, basically. So overly balanced. So that being said, that's how I've found so far to be able to objectify these items, to say, well, how do we say what's more priority by actually doing the work to lay it out?
Do you think stays committed to the customer, that has a relationship with the integration of God, family, life, and work? Or what, rather than use the word integration, than the clarity and commitments to those four pillars? The more clear one is on those four pillars, and the more that actually translates to the customer's value, the customer getting value.
Can you say it one more time?
Um, the the guardian stays committed to the customer while balancing what is most important. So, do you think the clarity around God, family, life, and work, and staying committed to those things, translates to more for the customer?
100,
When I look at when I think of
100%.
balance, I'm saying the individual has the ability to not lie in those four places, whether by omission or not, right? Like the over promising. So if I'm not over promising in the four places, in turn, I'm going to be better for my customers.
So I 100% believe that if the guardian is balanced in those four pillars, if they are living them out and upholding their word and commitments to themselves, and literally to God, to their closest family around them, to their life that's going on, the people that are around them and what they do, um, and their work, that it is going to be the highest probability that the customer will get all of the rest of these values that we've talked about delivered, and a clear and honest experience. So yeah, because again, based off of my own experiences, I'm the first one to sit to share about me first, right? Like not point the finger at other reps and be like, oh, I've seen this or I've seen this. I know for myself, like especially in the past, I have not felt this way in a decent amount of time, which is a true blessing. Um, but I know that in the past, when conflicts have arose in my between myself and my wife, the for some reason the first thing that rose up is, well, not for some reason, probably because it was built, a lot of our conflict was built around my work and my wife feeling less important and inconsidered and not communicated with. So then there would be some conflict that would rise up that I would feel very uncomfortable about that. And once it was unearthed, and my reactionary self was like, forget everything then. I'm not even going to work. I'm not doing anything. I will, like, very self-defeating behavior. I will burn this thing down, right? Like not I wouldn't say that, but my feeling, my emotion inside would be wanting to quit, right? And wanting to just make this drastic change in an attempt, like from hindsight looking at it, like I wanted to fix the problem, which was my wife's feelings were hurt and upset. I wasn't even aware enough to know what was going on. I just knew that she was upset. It didn't make any sense to me. I was doing what I thought was good, but yet there was something inside that I was aware of probably all these small little avoidances or coming home late or actually prioritizing the certain things over top of my relationship with her, like coming home late or breaking a promise or not doing what I said or answering a phone when I'm with her. Like all these different things are actually not balancing. And that's where the oxymoron comes in that I say is like you're staying committed to the customer while balancing the from somebody with a mindset like mine, which is all or nothing. The only way to have commitment is you always answer the phone. I don't care what's going on. Like I was just talking about to somebody the other day about it. Like I would answer the phone in the shower, like, hello, this is Robert. And it'd be like, or at late at night, like clients would call and it would be 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Like, hello, this is Robert. And they were like, oh, I thought I'd get your voicemail. Well, you got me. What's going on? This is how this goes, right? Like, so that was not very balanced. What I've come to find out is I can be committed to the customer while having boundaries, right? Like letting the phone go to the voicemail, checking the voicemail. If it's an even it's built out in my voicemail. This is emergency, call 855 roof 911. So, and it will get to an emergency number. Somebody will answer. It'll be shared out with all management. We'll know what it is. We can be responsive. So there's ways to have different checks and balances where I didn't have those things. So, absolutely, I do believe that if a guardian is able to balance these things that are important, they will have a higher probability of serving the client better, more clear, more honest, with boundaries. Because when it's like, I feel if I say oxymoron one more time on this call, but this whole thing is about that. This whole thing reveals so many things, like where I would think as a human, like, let me serve to their needs, let me do everything that they want. Well, actually, that could be breaking all the other values if we just give a customer everything that they say that they want. That avoids the first part of the value, is we're intentionally listening to them, right? And then the next one where it says, they're unique, so we create these win-win relationships. Win-win, like I've talked about, doesn't mean that we get the job. It could be that we don't work with them, and that's the win for them and for us, so they can go out and find somebody that will work with them in the way that would be a better fit for them, because our company isn't set up that way. Whatever that is, the things that rise up is that they don't have to pay their deductible or something along those lines. They'll, extract money from the insurance company for work that they're not doing. Something that's, not on the way that we do our business. I like to say the right way or ethical and moral, but all that being said, if I'm not living up to my own balanced priorities with my wife, that's family, right? That I believe is going to highly impact the way that I'm dealing with the client. If I'm not living up, so for me, the relationship with God is a big one. That filters through everything else. If I'm walking in faith in the moment, in a creator of this whole world that I believe is sovereign over everything, that there's this enemy in the world that is trying to kill, steal, and destroy. If I don't have a clear view of where I'm at and what's going on, that I can really get frustrated in this world. I can really forget that, like, we are in a sinful, fallen world, and I want everything to go a certain way. I want people to live up to what they say that they're going to do, which is reasonable to expect that and hold somebody accountable for those things. But it's also, I need to be aware that it's not always going to be like that. And my reaction to these, like, things breaking, people not living up, materials failing, it's a broken world, right? Like from people and things and stuff, and it doesn't last forever, and things are cheap, and all these, like, what could be considered very cynical mindset that I have. It's the reality. It's my reality anyway, of what I perceive and what I've seen in this world. And to recognize that this is not it. This is not eternity here in this broken world for me. And there's an eternity further. It can change how I navigate every relationship, every conversation, my own personal experience through each interaction from a feeling standpoint. Thoughts and feelings can be much more patient and kind and joyful, honest, if I'm walking under those guides. If I start, and it shifts for me, if I'm not balanced and I'm not reading, praying, listening to worship music, doing the, communicating in a small group, worshiping on a Sunday, if these things start to fall away or just become routine and not life, it's easy for the world. There's a constant battle. This is my view. There's a constant battle, and biblical view. There's a constant battle for my heart and my mind and my attention. It's either being distracted and I'm feeding my flesh and the things of my flesh, which would come down to, like, comfort, money, greed, position, pride, things of this nature, or my spirit, which is aware that those things are temporal, and to try to put others first in those areas. So yeah, if I'm not living up to those areas, it's real easy to be focused on the things, my goals, these external worldly things, like I want to sell this, do this, earn this, help this many people, like all these worldly type of and that's an interesting statement. Even, I want to help this many people. That's a nice way to package up, like, I want to sell, $10 million. Great. Well, we need to sell 650 contracts. So I want to help 650 clients, or we have, 10 guardians. Well, I want to help double that number. I want to help 10 more people. And it's true. Like, that's where, based off of my own internal compass, I can do both. I can help that many clients, work with a solid company that cares about them, that's going to be here, and also help, train 10 more guardians to change their life, to have more balance, to impact their families, their community, and potentially their relationship with God. But my internal compass can easily shift, where it's like, oh, it's about the money and those things, or the relationship. And when I can remain with my eyes open, I believe that I have the highest probability of doing both, reasonably. So I would say that all of those things impact the end result of the customer. 100%. Now, how to quantify that? That's where you have to have hard discussions with people, clear it and lay it out, and make sure. For myself, I have to have hard discussions with myself and then stick to it, and then realize what is a good balance, what isn't a good balance, practice. Um, and then each rep, in this scenario that we're talking about from Guardian, from work, they have to practice it, and then we talk about it, and then they have to say, like, no, I did say this, and they need to, because it's hard for me when I say, yeah, I want to do this and this, and I want to sell this, but then I don't do. One of the biggest things for me that I haven't done is regular, and I say regular because I go up and down all the time, regular exercise and regular sustained food intake, eating habits, because I go, real high, real low, or extreme. And I had to come back to the meeting and say, I didn't do it. That sucks. It really sucks to sit there amongst my group of peers and say, I didn't do it. I didn't care about myself, the things that I wanted to do. I did not do that in this diet and exercise routine. I had some wins, but I had mostly, the same old pattern, ups and downs. So it's a challenge in those communications when you're working with, when I'm working with others, from the person that's not living up to a certain thing, as well as when I have to ask somebody about something, like, how's this going? And I interpret it, at least I see the pain in their face of when they have to say something, or and then I have to listen, because if I'm closed-minded through these hard conversations, like, hey, what happened? I noticed that you didn't go on this trip or do these certain things, and you, like, whatever the thing is that we're talking about, I have to listen, because real external circumstances change and could go on. It may not just be an excuse that they're giving or something like that to justify why the action or inaction occurred, and then work through that, and then understand, and try to help lead someone. Like, because if they say, oh, this just didn't work out, I tried it and it was like this, well, I know from my own self, I might say that because I don't even want to face the failure again of trying again. I might just say, no, I set my standards lower. So if my counterpart is saying that to me, like, oh, no, that didn't work out because of this, and this, I really have to dig in to understand and ask more questions. Like, are you sure? Are you not just saying that because this is a challenge? And those are hard questions and hard answers, hard conversations. So for me, I'm not as much dealing with the customer. I do still sell, but my customer now, it has been more of like the sales rep, the staff of the company, the Guardian. That is my customer. They are buying into what it is that I'm selling, right? I'm selling an opportunity. There is this I'm casting the vision of what the company would look like and the people that would come on board. So I need to balance that relationship with the staff, while I have to stay committed to that relationship while balancing God, family, life, and work. So that's where and it could easily rise up for me, like, oh, this sales rep's calling. Oh, this is going on. This thing happened at work. I have to handle these things, but it's the same scenario that I'm going through. If I cut off my relationship with my wife or my kids or whatever, that's going to impact that, or my relationship with God, that's going to impact them and me in a very negative way. So I need to apply those principles to myself. It's just a little bit of a different medium. It's still the customer, but I actually interact with the customer through the staff. Is my most involvement with them. So yeah, so I think it's very important to uphold those, to give a greater experience, the highest probability of a great experience to the client.